tell me your story. Where were you? You were 14 years old when 9/11 happened.
Right.
Where were you living? What was that like?
In Nebraska, and it was during school, and so I didn't see the first plane hit the tower, but I got to see the second one on the news, and I was in algebra, and it was just kind of, the teachers were running around, everybody was kind of like, we stopped school to watch this, so it was kind of like, okay, what's going on type thing. And before, I kind of never really paid attention to the news, kind of knew what was going on, but never really focused how I was focused on that, kind of, realized there's much more going on out there besides, what's in small town Nebraska, type thing.
What town were you in Nebraska?
Nebraska City. Nebraska, so it's a small town.
So what grade? Ninth?
Ninth grade. Yes.
Wow, algebra class. So did the whole school gather in a certain place, like a gym?
It was just, we had
every classroom.
Every classroom had a TV type thing, and so everybody was kind of, like school just stopped, and so then that day we even got out early to go home. So it was just kind of like a, wow, this is really happening. Just kind of confused, kind of just everybody's trying to get the details.
Did it occur to you that it could have anything to do with what you would do in your future? I mean, did it?
At that time, it was just kind of more, my dad was retired Air Force, and so I looked up to him type thing, so I kind of wanted to join later, and growing up, I saw, military members, and I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. So at that time, it was kind of like thinking about how this affected me at that point, and sounds kind of funny now, but it was like, well, this must be pretty big, for getting out of school early, type thing, but that day it wasn't, I knew that it was a possibility that I could be affected by it if I joined the military later, but it was kind of, as a freshman, kind of, just kind of deciding to whether or not I still wanted to do that after high school, and just thinking about a lot about like my family and how it affected kind of everything that day.
So you were already thinking you might want to be military.
Right.
How early did that thought start?
It kind of happened before in the year. Our school does ASVAB testing, and the military recruiters come down and they do ASVAB testing throughout the school, and just kind of say, like, when you get out, this is a possibility for you type thing. And so I was already thinking about that, kind of wasn't sure what I wanted to do as far as college and whatnot, so it was a possibility before that.
So tell me what happened. How did it come together over the following years? And did you have a time when you didn't want to do military?
Well, just, like talking with some friends that I had that were older, everybody's kind of like, it's a big decision, you might want to wait a few years, or, if you want to go to school type thing. And pretty much when I graduated, I've had a job since I was younger, since I was 14, so I kind of just kept doing that, and...
What kind of job was that?
I did waitressing jobs, and, well, when I was 14, I did, like dishwashing jobs type thing, and then as soon as I got older, I did more of a waitressing type thing. And then I moved to Utah 2 years after I graduated high school, around that.
So what did you do after you graduated? You didn't immediately enlist.
Right. I just worked pretty much just customer service jobs, and then I moved here to Utah, and I did the same thing retail-wise, and it was more, I wanted to do something that meant something, kind of that was, like be a part of something bigger type thing, I was kind of just like really bored with what, just doing something, I wasn't going to school, I was just doing, my regular jobs, and I kind of felt like, and I know people say it too, and it's kind of cheesy, but just be part of something bigger, than myself, and, what better way, something, I could be proud of, my parents could be proud of, and I went and talked to a recruiter and became really good friends with her, and she she, gave me like a list of options that I could do, and I kind of knew what I wanted to do as far as job, and she knew exactly the people would talk to, and I knew I was going to come back to Utah type thing, and so I was kind of, after I started talking with her more, I was like kind of like ready to do it, ready to go, excited, a little nervous just because of not knowing, but not scared. I knew that it's a possibility that I could go, and especially being here in Utah, I know it's a base that deploys a lot.
Yeah. So tell me, what brought you to Utah before that, like 2 years out of high school?
Before, to be honest, I was married, and so I'm no longer married now, and he was in the service, so I moved here with him, and so, I got to see a lot of what he did, and his job was more along the lines of, I couldn't know a lot of things that he did, but I kind of seen like the back part of it, the back portion of, being a wife and what they go through, and I got to know a lot more too of a lot more things, and a lot kind of like to be able to support your spouse. You have to be part of the community kind of, and then the community also helps you, and I like that a lot. I had a lot of support with his unit, and none of them even like knew me at the beginning, and so it's kind of like when he deployed, I was in basic training. I had went to basic training, so we kind of just, I came back from basic training, and he was just leaving the same day to go to Iraq at that time, and so it was kind of, everything was kind of moved fast after I joined, so yeah, but yeah.
So did you feel that the jobs you had, I mean, you wanted to be part of something bigger, but were the jobs sort of dead end, not paying a lot, or was it?
Actually, I was getting paid pretty
well.
yeah, and
yeah.
It was just kind of.
Like what kind of retail?
I did. I worked in the mall, and then the last job that I had was over at the Marriott. I was the front desk type person,
yeah.
and so they treated me really well. But it was, just time for me to do something with my life type thing.
So how old were you when you joined?
I was 19 when I joined.
And the recruiter you talked to, was she here?
Yes,
in Utah?
She was here in Utah.
And what was it that you were saying you knew you would be here? Or?
I had actually talked with a friend. I do aviation resource management, and she told me what she did, and I was like, what? What does that even mean? And, she told me how she was in the reserve at that time, and so she just told me kind of like what she did, and the people that she worked with, and to me that kind of like sparked an interest, like that's something that I could, think I could see myself doing. And the traveling, she got to travel a lot, and pretty much work with, and you can work with anybody that flies planes type thing. And so I talked to my recruiter about it, and she was like, you have to get this score on the ASVAB, and I had got that in high school, and so I didn't have to take the ASVABs over again. And so she brought me over to this base, and actually the person that she introduced me later on became my supervisor when I joined, so that was kind of crazy. So it was kind of like, I knew I was coming here just because my ex-husband was here, so when you join and your spouse is in the military, then you could decide, you get orders when you're in tech school, you could decide to go where you get orders, or go to where your spouse is, and I opted to go where my spouse was.
So what is that job? What do you do? Is aviation management?
Yeah, resource management. Pretty much we can be anywhere where air crew is, so that's like pilots, anybody that is actually in the airplane, like navigators. For this job, it's with F-16 pilots here at the space, and so we make sure that we kind of keep track of their training, make sure that they're qualified and everything they need to do, just make sure that they're current as in physical health, keep track of flying hours for you know, like to make sure that everything flying hour-wise is like accounted for money reasons. Just kind of make sure, you know, the Air Force wants to know that what their money's going towards type thing. And so we just make sure there are no discrepancies as far as everything's accounted for flying hours and that sort of thing. And we also make sure we're kind of like a liaison between the pilots and maintenance. If there's any jet discrepancies, then we let them know, and pretty much that.
So when you joined, were you at all thinking, you know, my country's at war, 2 wars, this may put my life at risk. I may be asked to, you know, be on, well, there isn't really a front line in these wars, but you know what I mean.
Yes. And I thought more about that too, because my ex-husband at the time, you know, it's something he knows he's going to deploy every year. And so, you know, before I joined, you know, we talked a lot about that, and there's some training that even like wives have to go to. And so it's kind of with everything, the more that I found out, the more that I wanted to be involved type thing. So, yes.
Even knowing that you could be risking your life.
Right.
What was your thinking on that? The higher the stakes, the more interesting it was to you, or?
Just that I wanted to help type thing, you know, like, and it felt good, you know, and it was like, for me, like a, you know, like a honoring experience. Like, you know, I looked up to the people that, you know, that I was surrounded by, you know, and the more people that I met too that were actually going to leave and deploy, you know, they were just average people, and I looked up to them too, you know, and it's kind of like everybody just being a part of something that was good, you know, and so to me it was just kind of just not really, like, I knew what was at stake, but it just felt better knowing that, you know, it's not only me, but all these other people. It's like, you know, I'm going with some other people, you know, and so, yeah, I mean, I knew what was at stake.
And have you deployed? You've deployed,
yes,
right?
Twice.
Wow. Where were you and when was?
Both times, I was in Afghanistan, Bagram.
Wow. So what years were you?
I just, well, not recently now, it's been a little bit. I came back, or I left the last time in September, it's been a year now, September 2010, and I got back in April of 2011. And before that, I was gone in, let's see, sorry, dates are hard for me. It was a year before that, so in 2008, October through December time frame.
Of 2009.
Right.
Yeah. Wow. So what were those experiences like in Afghanistan?
My first experience was like a friendly, you know, get to go somewhere, you do all these training, like all this preparation, and I finally got to, you know, go see what it was like. And for me, it was a different experience to see a different culture. Like, we were gated. We couldn't go, you know, outside the gates, but we were inside a community. But just to see, you know, how different people live, and there's a lot of contractors there that were from around, you know, Afghanistan area, and it was different, you know, and it was at the same time knowing that like, just knowing, like, you know, there's a war going on. It's kind of, I don't know, it's kind of like you live, like, 2 different lives, like, you know, like, I can only speak for myself, but, you know, you have, like, your military life and your civilian life type thing, and it's kind of like 2 different worlds, you know, so it's kind of, like, experience kind of, like, it's like camping, but to a whole other degree, you know what I mean? Like a lot more risk at that time. And so you kind of just have to have a different mindset of, you know, these are the things that can happen, and, you know, what to do in case of emergencies, kind of be like on your toes, like all the time, you know, just kind of.
You were on base the whole time, though, right?
Right.
It's not like you're a tourist and can go
Right.
take a taxi to Kabul or anything like that.
Right. But, you know, we did get hit on base, you know,
Wow.
and, you know, like mortars or whatever, and then the, you know, loud voice would come on and tell us to find shelter and stuff, and kind of like the there for like a week before we were hit, like the first time that we were hit on base when I was there, and it was, you know, crazy. Like I just remember I was like outside, I was drinking a root beer, and I was just kind of like walking, you know, and I hear this like, just kind of like this noise go by in the air, just kind of like a fast noise, like, you know, those footballs, those Nerf footballs, just kind of like a bigger sound, but like one of those just go like over my head type thing. And then I heard the, you know, like the loud voice go off and the sirens, and then I just drop it and I run like, before they tell you, you know, where the bunkers are and everything, and you kind of like, okay, you know, like I get it in my head, but it's kind of like I didn't even think about it. Like I just ran to the nearest one that I knew of, and it was kind of like a fast experience, kind of like, oh, okay, you know, this is real. And I was like inside there, you know, with a whole bunch of people I didn't know, and it was kind of like, you know, everybody was making sure everybody else was okay, trying to get everybody, as many people as they could, into like one bunker area, and it was kind of like, okay, you know. And then at the same time, like, I thought about like everything that I wanted to do, you know, like I wanted to make sure, like, you know, like I call my family and just make sure everybody's okay type thing, but I didn't really tell them what was going on because I didn't want them to worry. But at the same time, it was kind of like, okay, you know, like it's real, you know. And so I can't really explain what I felt, just kind of knowing that at that time, then it was kind of more of a eye-opener, like, okay, this kind of stuff does happen, you know, here.
Yeah,
So.
yeah, wow. Have you ever in your mind thought back and, you know, that this is, or we are there because of 911, and connecting those dots, you know, where you are, like, at that moment and now, and that day in algebra class where you learned this news? I mean, do you think about the connection there, or is it just, it's your life and you're living it, so it's not? Every
9/11, you know, I think about, you know, of course, everything that happened, and it does make me feel good to know that, you know, I went to Afghanistan for a purpose, you know. And sometimes you think about, too, like, why am I doing this, you know? And then you go back and you think about things like that, especially on the anniversaries of 9/11, with all the coverage, all the news and everything.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I think about that a lot. Well, usually a lot around this time of year, you know, kind of things can get out of focus sometimes, but it really helps me, like, this is what you're doing, you know, for this.
So has it been what you hoped? It has given some structure to your life, you're part of something.
Yeah, the whole package.
Do you feel that way?
Yes.
The whole package is
Yes.
what you wanted.
Yes, a lot.
So where do you see it going? I mean, are you likely to just do your 6 years or whatever your duty is, or are you going to make it a career?
Right now I want to make it a career. You know, a lot of people I hear says changes, but for me, I've always, like, I always felt, you know, like, why not make it a career, you know? But, I mean, things can change with everything else. But, yeah, right now I would like to make it a career and be, you know, like, the higher-ranking, like, chiefs and stuff, and that are, like, you know, when I was younger, this is what happened type thing, you know? And just, you know, tell people my experiences, and, you know, like, younger airmen, you know, and kind of, you know, let them know kind of like I've been there. So, yeah, I would really like to do that.
So, let's see, which unit are you in? I guess I could have asked Rich this.
Yeah, it's a 4th Fighter Squadron.
Okay. And are you likely to be moved? I mean, I know military people are moved usually every 3 years or so, or are you?
With
here?
our,
If you're in the squadron, you're here.
well, not necessarily, just kind of with our career field, we don't move much. I mean, but right now I can move. I'm up to move at any time.
But generally, this career.
We usually stay here a while, yeah,
Right.
which I don't mind.
Are there men and women in that career
Yes.
field? It's not.